I gotta be upfront, this is my watch collection. Yeah, just one watch. Not exactly a flex, but I'm thinking I'm starting something. Here's the thing, I don't really think about watches in categories, so not dress watch, not tool watch, not daily driver. That's catalog talk, and it doesn't stick in my head. The way that I'm thinking about this is in heuristics, little rules, guardrails to keep me from making dumb, expensive mistakes while I figure this hobby out. So in this video, I'm sharing 5 heuristics that are helping me start my collection. So if you're new to watches, maybe they'll help you too. If you're a seasoned collector, maybe you'll laugh because you tried the same tricks and you still ended up knee-deep in Rolex boxes. Either way, let's run through them. Heuristic 1, the 1% rule. Never spend more than 1% of your net worth on a watch. So if you're worth 100 grand, that's a $1,000 cap. If you're worth $1 million, that's 10 grand. It sounds boring, but boring is freedom. Once the guardrail's in place, I don't have to give a second guess to every decision I want to make. Because when I first started looking, I noticed how easy it was to get pulled towards the big aspirational pieces straight away. The 1% rule works like a speed bump. It slows me down, it keeps things exciting, but not reckless. And if that number feels disproportionately small, maybe that's not a watch problem, maybe that's a net worth problem. Heuristic 2, the rebuy test. This one's harsher. Imagine the watch gets stolen today. Would you buy it again tomorrow? At first, the question feels a little cruel. Why picture yourself losing something before I even have it? But I like the way it forces me to check my own motives. Because when I picture it, I realize most of the time it's not really the watch I want. It's the idea of the watch, the story that I'm telling myself. The rebuy test is my way of cutting through that. If I can't see myself buying it twice, maybe I never really wanted it in the first place. But here's the other side of it. Once the money limit is set, once I know I'm not overspending, then the decision really comes down to the heart. What actually speaks to me? What would I still want to wear even if resale value disappeared tomorrow? Because I don't want to spend my time worrying about scratches or market prices. I want to enjoy the thing on my wrist, and the rebuy test feels like a proxy for that. If I'd happily buy it again, then it's not just an idea I liked, it's a watch that I'd actually want to live with. Heuristic 3, the homage run. This one's a little unusual and maybe controversial. Try the homage first. Let's say I want to try something like a Daytona. I don't need to jump straight in the deep end. I can start with a decent homage, something that borrows the look and feel without the 5-figure price tag, and just live with it for a little while. What I've noticed is that watches behave differently in real life than they do in photos. And on the wrist all day is a different story. Suddenly the weight feels heavier than I expected, or the bezel digs in, or I realize it's basically just a desk scratcher that leaves my laptop looking worse than me. And in that case, the homage probably saved me 15 grand. But sometimes the opposite happens. Sometimes it feels surprisingly natural, balanced, comfortable, easy to forget I'm even wearing it. And that tells me maybe the real thing could actually be worth the stretch. Some people dismiss homages, and I get that. Some collectors really hate them, but for me, they're just like a test drive, a way of testing the fit before committing, because the only thing worse than owning a homage you don't wear is owning the real thing that you don't wear. Heuristic 4. The status check. This one's about signals. Watches don't just sit on your wrist. They do say something, whether you mean them or not. The first time I thought about this, it wasn't even about me. I heard someone describe it like this. If you're wearing a watch way ahead of your salary, in some rooms it doesn't actually say ambition, it says I don't need the job. And that line stuck with me because it made me realize 2 things at once. On one hand, there are contexts where a watch that's too far ahead of where you're at can backfire. It doesn't add credibility, it raises questions. And then on the other hand, even outside of those rooms, there's still a quieter layer. Every watch sends a message. Maybe most people won't notice, but some will. And the real question is, Am I comfortable with that story? For me, this heuristic is a way of checking both sides. Outwardly, does the watch fit the situation that I'm walking into? And inwardly, am I okay with the message it's sending, even if no one says a word? If the answer to either of these is no, then that watch probably isn't for me, because once it's on my wrist, the story's out there and I don't get to control who hears it. Heuristic 5, the therapy check. This one's a little uncomfortable, but I think it's worth keeping on the radar. Sometimes a watch isn't really a watch. Sometimes it's therapy. I've seen how easy it could be. Bad week. Suddenly the listings look more tempting than usual. Life feels flat. You start convincing yourself that a new dial color matches your new vibe. I don't think that's where I am right now, but I like having this awareness as a kind of guardrail, because it would be too easy to dress up retail therapy as collecting if I wasn't paying attention. And maybe that's not a bad thing as long as it's honest. The problem, at least how I see it, is when the story we tell ourselves is about horology, when really it's about mood. Now here's a bonus one, and this one might not apply to everyone, but it definitely applies to me, so I will drop it in here. Because I travel and live in places where you don't exactly want to be walking around with something that screams a luxury, for me, that means a watch isn't just about how it looks. It's about how practical it is for the life I'm actually living. If it's fragile, if it's complicated to service, or it just feels like it would make me a target, then it's not really an option right now. There are plenty of watches I admire from a distance, but they wouldn't survive my reality. And that doesn't make them bad watches, just not my watches. This one's less universal, but I can't be the only person who thinks this way. So yeah, this isn't really a collection yet, just me trying to avoid dumb mistakes, but these heuristics are what keep the hobby fun for me, instead of stressful. And if you've ever owned a watch that just didn't fit you, check out this video here.